Okay, the next thing we're going to be looking at is the peripheral vascular system and the lymphatics. So the first thing I want to do is I want to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you, have you had any pain or swelling in your legs or your feet?
No.
Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to take her hands and I'm going to look at her hand, both of her hands, looking at the color of her hands, the texture of her hands, checking the temperature of her hands, and they both feel warm to touch. Skin is smooth. I don't see any abrasions or lesions or cuts or anything in her skin. And I'm going to look at her nail beds. I'm going to have you hold your hands out and I'm going to look from the side and I'm going to try to assess her nail beds for clubbing. And I do not see any clubbing of her nail beds. If I did see any clubbing, that would be indicative of poor oxygen. And I don't see any clubbing of that one. And we'll look at this one from the sides, and I don't note any clubbing of this one either. And I'm also, while I'm looking at her nail beds, I'm also going to check the capillary refill. Should be less than 3 seconds, and her capillary refill is good. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to be checking is her pulses. I'm going to palpate both of her radial pulses. And I palpated them both. I feel both of them, and I would rate them on the 3-point scale. I would rate them a 2+. They are normal. You want to palpate also. That's the radial pulses. I'm going to palpate the ulnar of both hands. And usually there are no ulnar pulses. And then I'm going to move up here and I'm going to assess at the elbow. I'm going to assess her brachial pulses. So I'm going to assess both of them to make sure they're equal. And they are. I would rate them on the 3-point scale. I would rate them 2+ also. Okay, so I'm going to assess the epitrochlear nodes. I'm going to do the handshake motion here and try to palpate the epitrochlear nodes for any swelling. And I don't. I'm going to do the same thing over here. On the inside. I don't palpate any swelling of those nodes. And I'm also going to do what is known as the Allen test, which is assesses for collateral circulation. So I'll just have the patient. I'll take her arm and extend it, and I'm going to be occluding the radial and the ulnar artery. And while I'm occluding them, I'm going to have her open and close her fist for blanching, and I do see the blanching. And then I'm going to release the ulnar, and as I release, I should see her color return back in her hand. I do see that. And we're going to move over here and do the same thing over here. Occlude both arteries, have her make a fist. And when I see the blanching, I'm going to release the ulnar, and I do see the color return back into both of her hands.